County, Georgia, there's a guy who's accused of trying to back his truck up over a cop, but video clearly shows he's innocent. On June 29, 2024, a cop named Dondi Nelson heard this guy making a political comment in the Home Depot and followed him to his truck, which itself is pretty messed up. According to his personnel file, Nelson immigrated to the U.S. from Trinidad and Tobago. He's only lived in Toccoa for the past few years. Back in 2021, Nelson was working as a jailer in Stevens County but quit, and Sheriff Randy Shirley marked his personnel file not eligible for rehire. We don't know why he did, but this suggests that Nelson shouldn't have been working in law enforcement by the time of Home Depot. Despite this, Shirley rehired Nelson as a patrol deputy in November 2021. In his less than 3 years of experience on patrol, Nelson was a repeated disciplinary problem. Nelson was so aggressive on the job that even the fire department chief emailed the sheriff to complain of multiple instances of Nelson's hostile attitude toward firefighters. He wrote, "We cannot volunteer our time for this county and be verbally abused any further by this deputy." Nelson's police report claims he went to the Home Depot to use the bathroom. Video shows he was shopping on the job. Police told the newspapers that the guy threatened and cussed him in the Home Depot. Home Depot workers say,
"I did not hear profanity.
No threats, though?
Not that I'm aware of it."
His body camera was apparently also off, so we'll never know exactly what was said in the Home Depot. Here's another Home Depot employee who affirms Freeman didn't cuss or threaten the deputy.
"I didn't hear any threat. I don't remember any cussing."
The judge has already ruled that the guy had a right to free speech and can't be charged with anything he said. Nelson claimed that the manager of the Home Depot asked him to give the guy a criminal trespass warning. Home Depot's employees say,
Do you know why Officer Nelson left the store and followed Freeman to the parking lot?
I do not know.
Justin Freeman is a father, church elder, private educator, and native of Habersham County. He's been married to one woman since 2011, with whom he has 7 kids, all of whom are homeschooled. Freeman has a background in both music education and software development. And up until 2024, he was owner and headmaster of the School of Future Arts in Clarksville, where he taught gifted homeschoolers how to play music, make video games, and build robots. As a church leader, he's been preaching weekly since 2016, and there's an online database of hundreds of his sermons you can hear for yourself. Freeman is also a farmer. He runs the Dell, a small farm in Clarksville that produces a little bit of everything from goat milk to honey to grapes. Freeman is also well known as a political activist and outspoken critic of abuses by the police. In 2017, he argued before the Georgia Supreme Court in defense of the right of church leaders to criticize the government, winning a major free speech battle for Christians. More recently, the Northeast Georgian published Freeman's criticisms of local police and courts. In 2023, they quoted Freeman's criticism of court backlogs, with Freeman saying things like, "We have a constitutional and legal right to a speedy trial, and the courts have a duty to give us that." And it is unfortunate that our prosecutors are of such ethical quality as to intentionally attempt to bully innocent people into entering false guilty pleas. That will only end when prosecutors lose absolute immunity and face real accountability. He also criticized police for failing to create video and audio recordings for traffic stops and for making fake traffic stops. In 2023, Freeman said, "It would behoove the police to stop maliciously writing frivolous citations which they can't prove, but obviously they won't do that so long as writing citations yields them a financial benefit and brings them no meaningful consequences. We desperately need accountability for law enforcement." So that's Justin Freeman. He's a homeschool dad, church leader, teacher, farmer, and pillar of the community. He's a defender of the faith and of the rights of the people. So the cop follows this guy out to the parking lot and the guy backs up his truck to leave. Nelson claimed,
"Yeah, he backed that red truck up like he about to hit me."
Video shows clearly he didn't. You can see in security video the guy comes nowhere near hitting the cop. The cop is at least 15 feet away and not in the line of the truck's travel. In fact, you can see it from 2 angles. Despite that, the cop pulled the guy over and arrested him. Then the police told the news that this guy backed up aggressively and almost hit the deputy. They charged him with assault, claiming that he did commit an act which placed Dondi Nelson in reasonable apprehension of immediately receiving a violent injury by reversing his vehicle quickly in the direction of Dondi Nelson, which his lawyers speak for, trying to back over a cop. The cop made that accusation in June. Then in October, he made it in sworn testimony that the guy hadn't even come close to hitting him, saying the closest approach of the truck was maybe about 5 feet. He also said the backup wasn't a crime. The lawyer asked, "As far as the backing up, did you swear out a warrant for that conduct?" He answered, "No, sir, I don't have probable cause at that time." So basically, this guy made a political statement and the cop arrested him. And now, more than 9 months later, the prosecutors are still falsely accusing the guy of trying to run over the cop, even though there's proof he didn't do it. So since that time, the cop has claimed that he had to pull the guy over for running a stop sign. But there's a problem. There's no evidence he ran the stop sign. Nelson created no dash cam video, so we can't see for ourselves what happened. Deputy Nelson claimed in a court hearing that the guy ran the stop sign across from Memorial on Walmart Way. That's confusing because Walmart Way doesn't even intersect Memorial, and there's no stop sign passing Walmart Way, so it isn't clear what he was talking about. If Nelson did start the chase because of the stop sign, he didn't say anything about it to the 911 dispatch. All Nelson said was,
"Attempt to make a traffic stop. On Highway 17, vehicles not stopping."
Later, Freeman demanded,
"What crime did I commit that initiated the stop? Name it. Name the crime." "You can't, because you know there isn't one. You can't name the crime because you know there isn't one."
And when Nelson described the chase to his buddies, he said nothing about the stop sign.
"Yeah, he backed that red truck up like he about to hit me. So I friggin' pull off, turn my blue lights on, he wouldn't friggin' stop."
Here's another one of Nelson failing to explain why he pulled Freeman over.
"What you got, Dondi? What's the stop for, Dondi?" "Okay."
More importantly, there's no possible way that Nelson could have seen the stop sign at Memorial Drive. These videos and computer models show that Nelson was far off when the guy reached the stop sign, and thick trees make it impossible to see. So there's no evidence that Freeman committed any traffic violations prior to Nelson turning his blue lights on, and Nelson didn't start making the claim until much later. After police arrested the guy, they told the news that he led them on a dangerous high-speed chase, saying he fled away driving recklessly and sped through Walmart Way onto Big A Road, hitting dangerous speeds. The guy was indicted for fleeing in traffic conditions which placed the general public at risk of receiving serious injuries and driving in reckless disregard for the safety of persons and property. Nelson claimed, video shows otherwise. The supposed chase went on for only 5 minutes and 40 seconds. In court, the officer admitted that the speed was probably about 20 miles per hour and that they drove about a mile. Investigators claim that the cop's dash cam was inoperable, so there's no police video, but the guy's son took a cell phone video that shows him driving super slowly and even stopping for a red light. Nelson also had to be warned repeatedly about turning off his dash and body cameras. Records show that Nelson would claim his cameras weren't working, would be issued new cameras, and then still wouldn't use them. Remember how Nelson's dash cams were supposedly inoperable at the time of the Home Depot chase? The high-speed chase to Walmart story doesn't even make sense because Toccoa's Walmart is right next to the highway. Why pass the highway to go to a parking lot?
We are trying to go to a safe place where people can at least see what's happening.
Don't police advise you that if you don't feel safe being pulled over, drive slowly to a public place with lots of witnesses? Well, in Stevens County, Georgia, that will get you charged with felony fleeing and reckless driving. Police told the newspaper that the officer stopped his vehicle as Toccoa police continued the pursuit and that the guy swerved his truck in the direction of the deputy, striking the deputy's cruiser head on. In a court hearing, the deputy claimed, "I stopped. He took his vehicle and he ran his vehicle straight into my driver's side door, pinned me in the vehicle." The indictment claims the guy did knowingly make an assault by driving his Chevrolet Colorado directly into the patrol vehicle, using his truck as a deadly weapon. But evidence shows otherwise. Seconds before the crash, an officer radioed,
I'm right here, I'm gonna box him in.
and then video shows a patrol vehicle intentionally pulling across a row of parking spaces and directly in front of the guy's truck, causing the crash, which was really more of a fender bender. Video also shows the cop, completely unharmed, immediately jumped out of the driver's side door and pointed a gun at the guy's innocent, unarmed 11-year-old son. So there you have it. Police caused the crash, and now they're trying to send an innocent man to prison to cover it up. And here's the response from Austin Greer, Georgia State Patrol. Greer responded from the south side of neighboring Habersham County. He traveled approximately 19.5 miles in 11 minutes and 37 seconds, meaning that his average rate of speed was over 100 miles per hour! Greer sustained speeds of over 130 miles per hour for 30 seconds straight. Here's Greer running a red light. And Greer's actions were completely unnecessary. By the time Greer arrived, Nelson had long since crashed the truck, and 6 other officers had Freeman at gunpoint. And Greer wasn't the only one who drove like a madman to get to this non-event. For example, here's Jake the Punisher Palmer, Toccoa PD, weaving lanes on his way to box the guy in, which ultimately caused the crash. Here's Angel Dixon, hitting 100 miles per hour on Big A Road.
Sir, we're on the phone with GSP.
Conventional wisdom tells us that we need strict enforcement of traffic laws to keep us safe, but in this case, the cure is worse than the disease. Here, Nelson abused the traffic laws to punish a political opponent, and the police turned a harmless situation into a danger for everyone. We still don't have all of the GSP video. When we get it, we'll plan to show it to you. But we know this case drew officers from across Stevens, Habersham, and Franklin counties, and they, not Freeman, created danger for hundreds of people. Is all of that worthwhile? Do we want to give police excuses to punish innocent speech activity? Is it worth it to have multiple cars weaving lanes, running red lights, and driving at insane speeds and intentionally crashing cars to catch a guy who supposedly ran a stop sign? Here's Freeman, professing his faith and clearly notifying Palmer about what caused the situation.
19, get distance with a long rifle.
We don't believe in trying to stop people and attack them for no reason. Only because they express anti-police views. That's what this is about.
Freeman also warned Palmer that he was not obligated to comply with an unlawful arrest.
I'm not obligated to comply with unlawful orders. These are unlawful orders.
Did you know it's legal to resist an unlawful arrest in Georgia? I'm not a lawyer, so don't take it as legal advice. But in 2020, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled in a case called Glenn v. State that an unjustified arrest is just plain old kidnapping and that Georgians have a common law right to resist. So this guy is charged with felony fleeing, but the court said that man has a right to shun an illegal arrest by flight. The exercise of this right should not and would not subject him to being arrested. An officer could not attempt an illegal arrest and then justify the attempt on the ground that the person would not stand still but ran away. So if the cop had no reason to make a traffic stop, in theory it is legal to run away. And Georgians don't have to run because they have the right to fight. OCGA 16-321A says that a Georgian can use force that he reasonably believes is necessary to defend himself or a third person. The court said in Glenn, an unlawful arrest is an assault that justifies the person in breaking away, resisting, and repelling force with force. That includes by destroying government property. So when police used their cars to box Freeman in theory he had a right to destroy those cars to escape. He also had a right to fight the police after they pointed guns at him and his son.
What crime did I commit that initiated the stop? Name it. Name the crime. You can't, because you know there isn't one. You can't name the crime because you know there isn't one.
Under Georgia law, that means it's time to fight. But what was the cop planning to do if the guy had complied? The video shows that the cop was prepared to lie to get both this guy and his son in handcuffs, and also that he was eager to hurt both of them. The cop had his body cam and dashed him off, which suggests that he was planning to do something illegal and didn't want there to be a record. He's also on record lying to excuse doing violence to the guy, and the cop had a gun. It's reasonable to believe that if the guy had pulled over, this cop would have made false accusations to at least arrest both him and his son, and at worst could have killed them and lied to cover it up. It's also very reasonable to think that the guy saved his life and his kid's life by trying to get to a place with witnesses and drawing other officers with cameras to the scene. Freeman's refusal to surrender after the crash may have also saved his life. If he had gotten out of the truck, police would have had a clean shot and might have taken it. Remember Daniel Shaver?
Call towards me! Don't
But really the whole question is backward, asking, why just pull over, comply and get kidnapped? It's like asking, why just let him rape you? Or why not just give him all your money? Or why not just let police break into your house? False arrest is a felony. No one is obligated to just quietly submit to a felony because it might make things easier. That would mean the end of the rule of law. A better question is, why didn't the cop just stop committing an unlawful arrest and leave these people alone? The only reason we have critical evidence like the guy's 911 call in the newspaper accounts is because he stalled long enough to call them. Okay, we're going to listen to the 911 call from the guy in the Home Depot parking lot. It speaks for itself.
There are at least 6 officers pointing guns at me right now.
Okay.
I was at Home Depot. I made a statement that was in opposition to the police. I walked out to my car. I got into my car and tried to leave. A police officer who was in the Home Depot, he is a black male. He has a bald head. He has his glasses on top of his head. He is pointing a gun at my face right now. Came out and got my license plate number while I was pulling out and leaving. He then started to follow my vehicle, and he initiated
Okay, sir.
stop.
Sir, I would like to advise you to comply with the officers, okay?
The officers, listen to me, the officers made an unlawful stop. I am not obligated to respond to unlawful orders. This is clearly an intentional attack on me and my child because we expressed anti-police sentiment. And you can now see exactly why we are.
He said all you have to do is step out and speak with them.
They started chasing me around Toccoa. I was driving slowly, looking for a place that I could pull over safely, where there could be witnesses to the attack on my liberty taking place.
Sir.
I pulled into the Home Depot parking lot.
Justin.
The officers crashed into my truck.
Here's 911 dispatch, relaying the facts to all officers, and Palmer ordering them to disconnect the call.
He's advising us an unlawful stop. He is not obligated to respond to unlawful orders. He wants his lawyer.
10-4. Just end it so we can try to talk to him. Dispatch, if you're still on the phone, hang up the phone with him.
After the 911 call, officers re-established communication over the phone where there wouldn't be a public record. But less than 4 minutes before smashing the window, here's Ray Dean, Georgia State Patrol, promising to give Freeman a lawyer and negotiate a peaceful surrender.
We'll get you a lawyer. You need to come out quick, peacefully right now, okay? Okay, we'll get you a lawyer, but we need you to come out peacefully, okay?
Speaking of peacefully, here's Dean casually planning to shoot Freeman in the back.
We only want one shot, obviously, okay?
Ron Nesbitt, Toccoa PD, texted Freeman to ask who his lawyer is. Less than 2 minutes later, Freeman texted a response as Dean and Nesbitt helped breach the truck. Warning, graphic content. The police have claimed that they had no choice but to shoot the guy with tasers because he attacked them first, but video shows otherwise. Video clearly shows that Freeman was holding a cell phone when officers smashed the truck window in his face, and that they pointed a taser within 2 seconds! Rather than attacking them, he held his foot up defensively. Palmer fired the first shot, and then Trooper Greer in blue drew his taser. Remember, the courts have ruled that tasers are deadly weapons and Georgians have a right to self-defense against an unlawful arrest. Yet again, police lied about what happened, pretending they had used tasers because they were attacked. Police claimed in the newspaper that immediately upon breaching the driver's side glass window, the male subject began punching and kicking officers, as well as throwing glass at law enforcement. In court, Deputy Nelson said Randy Shirley put his hands through the window, and then Freeman started taking glass and throwing it at Trooper Greer and started punching Trooper Greer in the face. Freeman was fighting, so Trooper Greer tased him. Greer agreed, saying, once he began punching and hitting us, I did deploy my taser. For this, the guy was charged with 4 counts of obstructing law enforcement officers by doing violence. But the video shows that the police story is untrue and that the officers shot first. It's illegal in Georgia to resist an unlawful arrest and also to act in self-defense. So clearly Freeman did not immediately begin attacking officers. In reality, they smashed glass in his face and immediately began shooting him with tasers and electrocuting him while he sent a text message and tried to block them with his foot. Is anything that the police said about this case true? No one wants to, but we've got to watch video of police beating up an 11-year-old kid in the Home Depot parking lot of Toccoa, Georgia. Police were trying to arrest the kid's dad for reasons that are weak at best. But whenever you think of the dad, it's clear the kid didn't break the law. Regardless, video shows police holding him at gunpoint before smashing glass in his face, ripping him out of the truck, wrestling him to the ground, and putting him in a chokehold! In court, Officer Greer claimed they had to do this because he was still fighting us, kicking and spitting and trying to bite us. No, Greer, he wasn't. Cops just snatched him out and took him straight to the ground. After this, video shows him calmly standing with officers while they dragged his dad away. Here's Jake Palmer, Toccoa PD, savagely beating and tasing this guy for making a political comment.
Stop him. You got his leg.
Okay, this is why no one with a Punisher tattoo should be bringing law enforcement. Here's another angle. Take a look at Georgia State Patrol Trooper Matthew Vandiver in blue on the left, just raining blows on this guy who didn't commit any crime. Here's Brandy Robinson, laughing while Freeman was beaten and tased. After this, the trooper puts the guy in a punishing chokehold for 49 seconds. That's more than half the length of this entire video. Then, once the guy's restrained, we've got video of the sheriff in his boots, literally jumping up and down on this guy's leg. And look at the injuries. He's got blood all over his face and the worst bruise on his back I've ever seen. He had a broken rib and doctors had to surgically remove a chunk of glass from his elbow. Believe it or not, in sworn testimony, when Deputy Nelson was asked if the guy had suffered any injuries, he said the guy was injured from the airbag. Yeah, right! Here's this.
I committed no crime. You know this. You know it.
You charged with many aggravated assaults. You understand that, you stupid idiot?
I understand nothing that you're saying.
Okay.
Your officer attempted to kidnap me. He had no reason to initiate a stop.
Sheriff, we got it.
You're helping him.
Sheriff.
Okay.
Sheriff, we got it, buddy.
And this.
You people threatened to murder children today for no reason. You crashed my car for no reason.
After spending less than 2 minutes trying to subdue and handcuff Freeman, here's a portion of Greer struggling for over 4 minutes to catch his breath. Listen to officers lying to the kid, telling him they wouldn't arrest him.
No, we're not trying to arrest you, but
You are detained, right?
As thanks for his good behavior, Toccoa decided to put the innocent 11-year-old kid in handcuffs and take him to jail. And then, just to put some stink on it, they bashed his head on the police car on the way in. The kid faced no charges. Just like his dad, he had done nothing wrong. But the police decided to beat him up and take him to jail anyway. According to his mother, the police took him to the jail and questioned him without his parents or a lawyer, and then refused to release him unless she answered their questions. She says police only let go of the kid after she threatened to call a lawyer. Clearly, the kid didn't deserve this. Why aren't the officers responsible facing charges for battering and kidnapping this kid? Here's a video of Tim Kelly talking about how he threatened to arrest a bystander who took cell phone video.
he's deleting this footage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who was?
The old guy back in. Oh, what's up at 50, you know, that's $50,000 fine, that's 15 years in prison.
He didn't want to do that, did he?
No.
And finally, here's Nelson, burdened by a guilty conscience, apologizing to Austin Greer.
I apologize, Greer.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Hey, he's the idiot, so. He's the idiot, man.
Police arrested a guy in the Home Depot parking lot because he said some things they didn't like, and they beat the snot out of him. The guy is charged with violently obstructing several officers, but the claims are highly suspect. First, remember that in Georgia it's legal to resist an unlawful arrest. It's also legal to fight in self-defense, and both are relevant in this case. But more importantly, video shows him not violently resisting. The worst injury any officer received was Jake Palmer, who bruised his own knuckles, savagely beating Freeman in the back. After the beating, he tacitly admitted to another officer he caused his own injuries.
Did he break your knuckle?
No, well, kind of.
That guy in the clean blue shirt is Austin Greer. Clearly he isn't injured at all, but in court, another deputy swore that Greer was so badly injured that he had blood soaked through his shirt. He said in his testimony, "I remember he was bleeding because that light blue shirt had blood on it." Of note, Matthew Vandiver also didn't have blood on his shirt. What everyone did have was Freeman's blood all over their hands. And then there's this guy, Tim Kelly, who was on the opposite side of the truck such that no one ever laid a finger on him. But the truck guy is still charged with violently obstructing him. Yet again, basically every single claim the police have made about this case is completely untrue. They're trying to put an innocent man in prison because they beat him up. A judge issued a warrant against Elder Freeman for simple assault on June 30th, one day after Freeman was arrested, apparently with no evidence at all except for Dondi Nelson's police report. The rationale for granting the warrant references nothing except for the text of Nelson's police report, copied and pasted verbatim, spelling and grammatical errors and all. No other witnesses are mentioned, and we know that investigators did not have the Home Depot security footage until a few days later. So apparently, anything an officer writes in a police report is sufficient for a judge to issue a warrant. And I say a judge, because we don't even know what judge issued the warrants in the Home Depot case. The warrants we received from the district attorney's office have no names or signatures on them. Also interesting, police did not seek a warrant for Elder Freeman's supposed disorderly conduct in the Home Depot until 10 days after his simple assault warrant, several days after investigators received definitive video evidence proving Freeman's innocence of simple assault. This could suggest that someone intentionally invented the false disorderly conduct charge to justify the stop because they knew their original rationale could not hold water. Unfortunately, the court's documentation is so sloppy, we don't even know who applied for the warrant. Home Depot cop Dondi Nelson was disciplined for keeping his cameras off. But is this the accountability we're looking for? 2 months after Home Depot, Nelson was given a written reprimand for yet more instances of not using his cameras. That same day, he signed a resignation letter on the sheriff's letterhead. Sounds to me like he was given the option to resign or be fired. At first, that seems like a big victory. A dishonest cop out of a job. But then, on February 6, 2025, only 4 months after his resignation, Toccoa PD rehired Nelson as a city cop. Nelson falsely claimed on his job application that he had never been reprimanded for not performing his job properly and had never resigned for any disciplinary reason. We contacted Toccoa PD to point out Nelson's disciplinary record and dishonesty on his job application, and he said, "We do not discuss personnel issues or decisions." So apparently, the penalty for attacking innocent kids and pointing guns and being repeatedly disciplined for turning the cameras off to cover your tracks is that you trade a tan county uniform for a Navy City uniform and keep right on policing. Nelson isn't the only Home Depot officer who resigned in 2024. There were 13 officers at the Home Depot when an innocent man was held at gunpoint, beaten, and arrested. Within 6 months, several of them had resigned. First, Nelson was disciplined and resigned. Thereafter, Nelson's direct supervisor, Tim Hill, resigned, and his supervisor, Kyler Jameson, resigned, and his supervisor, Sheriff Randy Shirley, also resigned. So did Tim Kelly, Toccoa PD. That's 5 out of 13 resigned within 6 months. Toccoa Police Chief Jimmy Mize suddenly resigned without explanation on Nelson's last day on the job. 1 day after Dondi Nelson's personnel file was released, Chan Caudell, the judge who had ordered Freeman held without bond, reinstated his bond, and then he resigned only a few weeks later. And are you sure you even want the people who are left? The personnel files suggest that they're not the heroes they're made out to be. Ron Nesbitt's file shows that he had to have his wages garnished to pay child support for kids by 3 different mothers. Angel Dixon had to be reprimanded for posting videos of herself in uniform on TikTok. I don't even want to know what she was doing. Here's Brandy Robinson. She listed her prior job history as cleaning the tanning beds at Video Warehouse. And Jake the Punisher Palmer had to be disciplined for arguing with his baby mama when he was called out to an alcohol-fueled domestic dispute. These people aren't heroes. They're not even model citizens. They're just whatever trash will accept a paycheck to blindly follow orders. Even Billy Owenby, the Home Depot employee who witnessed the backup, is a former bad cop. His file says he was hired as a jailer in Habersham County despite having once been arrested for stealing from Ingalls. He worked as a guard for a little over a year, received poor performance reviews, and then got fired for putting an inmate in a chokehold. I wouldn't trust any of these people farther than I could throw them, but somehow, on their word alone, we're talking about throwing productive citizens in prison for life. Let's talk about the outrageous sentencing possibilities in the Home Depot case. Freeman already spent 6 months in jail before being released on bond. Freeman is 40 years old and has a life expectancy of 37 more years, so more than 37 is effectively life. The remaining charges are simple assault for backing out of a parking space carries up to 1 year and $1,000 fine. Reckless driving for going 20 miles per hour carries up to 1 year and $1,000 fine. Felony fleeing an officer for driving 1 mile to a parking lot carries from 1 to 10 years and a $5,000 to $10,000 fine. Aggravated assault on an officer with a deadly weapon because police intentionally boxed his truck in and caused a crash, suffering no injuries. It carries from 5 to 20 years and a minimum $2,000 fine. Felony obstruction of an officer by doing violence, 4 counts. Freeman was charged with this because police shot him with tasers, electrocuted him, and beat him nearly to death. Each count carries from 1 to 5 years and a fine of at least $300. Times 4, that's 4 to 20 years and $1,200. Grand total, Freeman facing at least $8,000 in fines and 12 to 52 years behind bars, meaning Freeman faces the possibility of life in prison. Police piled all those false accusations on Freeman within under 30 minutes. So that tells you what the life of a productive citizen in Stevens County is worth to his government. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, beatings for speech, and prison for truth. A guy got beaten and arrested at the Home Depot for no good reason. How did the newspapers get the story so wrong? For months now, we've been noting major differences between what the video shows and what the papers reported. Our review of the original news article in the Toccoa record shows that over half of it is proven false by the video evidence and recorded witness statements. The Toccoa record didn't even get the charges right. The article is based mostly on a press release from then Sheriff Randy Shirley, who had smashed out the window, jumped on the guy's leg, and watched approvingly as Toccoa PD put an 11-year-old in handcuffs. Of course, he didn't report anything that could make the police look bad. Most of what Shirley gave to the papers was Dondi Nelson's account of events. Obviously, Nelson had motivations to lie. The account he gave to the sheriff differs significantly even from his own police report. But Shirley passed the account along, defaming Freeman while shielding Nelson from criticism by withholding his name. The Toccoa record uncritically published his account. The Toccoa record also published a statement from Freeman, but it was a partial statement. Freeman spent his final moments of freedom leaving a voicemail for Matthew Osborne, then editor of the Northeast Georgian. But critically, the newspapers did not report anything that Freeman said that contradicted the police account. For example, Freeman said,
"He knows absolutely that I didn't commit a crime. They all know that. So I pulled back into the Home Depot parking lot hoping that I could be in a place where there would be witnesses to what's happening. The police crashed my truck."
So the Northeast Georgian and Toccoa record should have known that there was a problem with the police story, and at the very least they should have published both sides, but they chose not to, and only published quotes from Freeman where they tended to agree with the police. On March 17, 2025, before we made these videos, I went with my mom to meet with Toccoa record reporter Todd Truelove and editor Michael O'Hearn, who were responsible for the story. We brought audio and video clips disproving 10 misstatements of material facts and asked them to run a correction. Here's what Todd Truelove said.
"You can't do that because that was what the police were saying."
In response, I started this video series. Since the news of Mr. Pipsqueak broke the story, we've contacted all of the local news organizations. As far as we know, none of them have carried the story. This is one of the reasons that so many people in the South are uncritically trusting of the police. Their local news media never tells them anything otherwise. Despite his abuse, Randy Leg Stomper Shirley retired to accolades from all corners of the media. Police Chief Jimmy Mize suddenly resigned and not a single news outlet tried to figure out why. Georgia's fallen into a police state right under the people's noses because the local media, who are supposed to be our watchdog, have gone to sleep. What you need to know is that the local papers are often willing propaganda. They'll unquestionably publish anything the local government tells them and will intentionally cover up undisputable proof that the police are lying. You can't trust them. The Toccoa record sat on the story for 16 weeks before finally publishing this lame article about the July 2nd protest. The article says nothing about the evidence in the case and still covers up Dondi Nelson's name. On July 2nd, Assistant DA Suzanne Boykin, the unelected bureaucrat prosecuting Freeman's case, met with Freeman's lawyer Brock Johnson to discuss. A handful of protesters gathered outside while the lawyers met in hopes that Boykin would do the right thing.
I think it's a blatant issue of police retaliation, as seen here. And I don't think if it goes to trial that anything will stand, so I think it would be foolishness to continue pursuing it.
But in the end, they were disappointed. Boykin said she would not drop a single charge. Boykin still insists that this is an attempt to back a truck over a police officer, despite the fact that every person of sound mind could see otherwise. She knows just as well as you do that this charge is false, but she is intentionally bringing it anyway. Why? Because she knows that if Freeman didn't attempt to back his truck over Nelson, then there's no probable cause for the stop, and if there's no probable cause for the stop, then Freeman had a right to resist, and everything else falls apart. And then, the county would have to pay for their own foolish decisions. Foolish decisions like keeping Nelson on the force, and attacking political opponents, and intentionally crashing police cars, and beating up innocent people. As always, government workers won't take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they're making the conscious decision to put a man whom they know to be innocent in prison for life. And that's dangerous. Founding Father John Adams famously said, "If innocence itself is brought to the bar and condemned, then the citizen will say, whether I do good or whether I do evil is immaterial, for innocence itself is no protection. And if such an idea as that were to take hold in the mind of the citizen, that would be the end of security whatsoever." With this decision, Suzanne Boykin has declared that in Stevens County, it is literally open season for police to hunt, capture, or even kill any political dissenters. That there will be absolutely no accountability for anyone in the government, that your innocence is no excuse, and that no amount of peaceful speech or appeals to reason will correct the problem. Here's the good news in the Toccoa, Georgia Home Depot case. But the charge that started it all was disorderly conduct. The grand jury indicted this guy for disorderly conduct on the claim that he said something rude about a cop. The guy denies that he said it, but more importantly, the court ruled that the accusation was protected speech. Now, it's true that it's not nice to say rude things about people, but speech is important and we have to protect it. We can't get to the truth unless we hear all opinions, and democracy can't survive if all sides aren't fully debated. And here's the thing about speech protections. You don't need them for polite speech. People like polite speech. The speech that people don't want to hear is the speech that needs protecting. The U.S. Supreme Court said that speech may indeed best serve its high purpose when it induces a condition of unrest, creates dissatisfaction with conditions as they are, or even stirs people to anger. And more than anything, if we want to have a good government, we need to be able to criticize the government to make it good. The Georgia Supreme Court ruled that the freedom of individuals verbally to oppose or challenge police action without thereby risking arrest is one of the principal characteristics by which we distinguish a free nation from a police state. So this guy's arrest looks really bad for Georgia. Thanks to the judge in Stevens County who protected Mr. Freeman's speech. Let's hope the prosecutors join with him and drop the other charges. The Toccoa record also ignored the city commission meeting. On July 28th, 2025, a thunderstorm knocked the power out, but that didn't stop the Toccoa City Commission from meeting at City Hall in Toccoa, Georgia. And nothing could stop the representatives of the Justin Freeman is Innocent team from showing up to deliver your petition. And we've got the highlights. First, Mrs. Freeman gave an impassioned plea for the commissioners to fire Nelson, retelling the story of how he abused her husband and her son.
Last summer, Nelson violently attacked my son and husband in retribution for their political speech. A judge has already ruled that nothing my husband said was a violation of the law. But in response, Nelson followed my husband, blue lighted him for no reason, and then crashed his truck. My husband and son were driving slowly through a parking lot, screaming for help because they knew Nelson had a violent agenda. Nelson is willing to kill anyone he dislikes. He held my 11-year-old son at gunpoint before smashing in the truck's windows, wrestling him to the ground, and putting him in a chokehold. 11-year-old. If other officers hadn't pulled Nelson back, he could have killed my son. And then Nelson told a mountain of lies to have my husband wrongly detained and indicted. Most egregiously, he claimed that my husband had tried to run over Nelson in the parking lot. But thank God there's security video proving Nelson's lies. Nelson thought he would get away with it because he had turned off his cameras, but thankfully other officers hadn't. So now we've all seen what happened. But Nelson will still get away with it if there is no one in our local government who will hold him accountable.
Mrs. Freeman also hand-delivered your petition, which garnered over 1,400 signatures. Here are some of the comments you left on change.org.
Okay, so I got family that works for the sheriff's department, that worked for the police my entire life. This is excessive. This behavior is excessive. And it just shows that they're not actually working for us. They believe they are a separate group of people, a separate class, that is special. They are the parent of everybody else, and they're not. We have parents, okay? And if you want people to be more responsible, we don't need cops like this anymore, period.
Freedom of speech is a universal human right and not a traffic violation. Officer Dondi Nelson lied many times, as you can now see from videos.
This is quite frankly unacceptable behavior from law enforcement officers who do not conform to the same laws that they enforce. It is a violation of the Constitution that they swore an oath to protect. They do not serve and protect the people. Instead, they violate people's rights. They are corrupt, and this is one of many examples of this. Enough is enough. We, the people, matter.
After the petition was delivered, a handful of bold citizens followed to give the commission their complaints. Elder Freeman's father emphasized Nelson's violence and the police overreaction. He shocked the commissioners and the audience by showing them excerpts from the News with Mr. Pipsqueak Season 1 as he spoke.
It just made me sick to my stomach when I seen these videos. I normally don't come to meetings like this. I have no need to. You guys normally do a good job. But when you overlook something like this, now that you know he lied on his application, I just don't see how he can stay employed if he does. We're sending this man out on the street with a gun, a badge, the authority to, do whatever he wants to do, basically.
Another woman focused in on Nelson's disciplinary record and dishonesty.
I'm here tonight because Officer Dondi Nelson, currently employed by the Toccoa Police Department, has demonstrated a pattern of dishonesty that disqualifies him from public trust. Officer Nelson was previously with the Stevens County Sheriff's Office. Public records show he was formally reprimanded for failing to wear his body camera, a clear violation of department policy. The disciplinary report that I have here reads, Deputy Nelson has been told several times by supervision that he is to wear his body camera. He has also been advised by his patrol sergeant to wear his body camera. That same day, he resigned, and the disciplinary form explicitly states, quit upon being read, if you can see that. Yet when applying to the Toccoa Police Department, Officer Nelson falsely stated that he had never been reprimanded and had never resigned in connection with misconduct, which is obviously not true.
Remember, the news with Mr. Pipsqueak Season 1 broke the story of the disciplinary actions taken against Nelson and his lies on his job application back in May. But let's add this to the pot. After the meeting, the Justin Freeman is Innocent team put the city on notice that Nelson's dishonesty on his job application may itself have been a felony. OCGA 161020 says, a person who makes or uses any false writing or document, knowing the same to contain any false statement in any matter within the jurisdiction of any department of the government of any city of this state, shall, upon conviction thereof, be punished by a fine of not more than $1,000 or by imprisonment for not less than 1 nor more than 5 years, or both. And that's just Nelson's job application. Another concerned citizen pointed out that keeping Nelson on the payroll would be a liability to the taxpayers of Toccoa when he caused more problems down the road.
We have a problem is that Nelson has now opened up our municipality to huge liabilities. This is about to become a serious financial disaster by heaping the legal costs on the taxpayers like all of us in the room to pay for his violence and his lies. It's just unacceptable.
And this local woman emphasized the importance of defending free speech.
The First Amendment was adopted 234 years ago, and since then, courts have long established that citizens can voice their free speech in public places like the steps of City Hall. Today, public places also include government Facebook pages where we have the freedom to petition the government for redress of grievances. Last Tuesday, the Toccoa Police Department took down their Facebook page. On July 25th, the Toccoa Police Department brought their page back up. However, they are now limiting where people can post. Plus, we are unable to see any comments that were posted prior to them taking down this page on Tuesday. It is believed they are deleting comments possibly and blocking people. These are First Amendment violations that further open the city of Toccoa up to more liability like this gentleman was saying here.
So there you have it. The elected leaders of Toccoa were made fully aware of the Dondi Nelson problem. So how did they respond? Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce... The next day, he handed in his resignation letter. Nelson said he enjoyed working as a police officer, but it's now time to explore other employment options. At this time, neither Nelson nor any of his co-conspirators are facing charges, which suggests that the new chief of police, Bruce Carlisle, and the new sheriff, Rusty Fulbright, are more than willing to turn a blind eye to obvious misbehavior, as long as the person doing it is one of their own.
Get your hands up!
In our recent poll about Assistant DA Suzanne Boykin's actions in the Freeman case, 91% of respondents said that Suzanne Boykin is evil. And we can't even vote these people out. The police chief is appointed, and he hires the local police. And the ADA is an employee of the DA's office. In what is supposed to be a free country run by elected officials, these deep state unelected bureaucrats survive from administration to administration without ever answering to the people. Let's be honest here. If anyone else in North Georgia tried to do what our local government is doing, he'd be facing serious prison time. But police and prosecutors aren't likely to face criminal charges even if they do commit serious crimes because, duh, their own office would have to choose to prosecute them. And as we've all seen, local government protects even their worst. 18 U.S.C. 242 says, whoever, under color of any law, willfully subjects any person to the deprivation of any rights shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life or both or may be sentenced to death.
We've done no wrong and you know it. This is a kidnapping.
But this law can't be enforced locally. To get the benefit of 18 U.S.C. 242, the feds have to get involved. So in the Freeman Home Depot case, the United States government has an opportunity to prove themselves to the people. Will they step in and defend our constitutional rights by holding corrupt police and prosecutors to account? Or will they sit back and do nothing, proving that the government workers are well above the law while we the people are beneath it? I guess that only time will tell.
Your officer attempted to kidnap me. He had no reason to initiate a stop.
Sheriff,
You're helping him.
There were 13 officers at the Home Depot event. Right now, Toccoa PD has released all of their videos, but the Georgia State Patrol has only released Austin Greer's video. They're still withholding videos from Ray Dean and Matthew Vandiver, which could be critical to the case. Even worse, the new Stevens County Sheriff, Rusty Fulbright, is withholding all of the video recordings in the case. So while he wants to sweep this under the rug and blame his predecessors, the fact is that he is currently helping in the cover-up. On the weekend of October 10th, 2025, the Stevens County Sheriff's Office and Toccoa PD coordinated a public relations blitz that they dubbed Faith and Blue Weekend. On Friday, the first day of the PR campaign, Ebenezer Baptist Church hosted a meet and greet event in which they answered community questions. The loss of public trust over the Home Depot scandal was front and center. Question: what is going to be done to ensure that incidents like that at the Home Depot last year never happen again, and how are you going to hold those involved accountable?
It would be irresponsible for me to talk about anything about any instance that occurred before I became the police chief, because I had no involvement in it.
We've got to stop these "I wasn't in charge when it happened, so I'm not responsible" claims. It's true that Bruce Carlisle wasn't police chief at the time of the Home Depot event, but Bruce Carlisle immediately rehired Dondi Nelson as a city cop after he resigned from the sheriff's office. When the public demanded that Nelson be fired, TPD shut down their Facebook page, and Bruce Carlisle defended Nelson and then allowed him to resign with no consequences. And while about half of the officers who were involved in the Home Depot event resigned and went elsewhere, several of the officers are still hanging around and working for Bruce Carlisle at Toccoa PD and for Rusty Fulbright in the sheriff's office. Jake Palmer, who boxed in Elder Freeman's truck and caused the crash, and who ordered 911 to cut off communication, and who fired the first shot and then beat Elder Freeman black and blue, has faced no consequences. In fact, the city gave him an award under Carlisle's leadership. Palmer was helping Angel Dixon when she put an 11-year-old kid in handcuffs for absolutely no reason. Dixon was sitting right there when Bruce Carlisle answered this question.
If somebody needs to be fired, they're fired.
And Bruce wants to tell us that he fires anyone who needs to be fired? He didn't fire anyone! Sheriff Fulbright was already starting to take over some of the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's office when this happened. Meanwhile, his predecessor, Randy Leg Stomper Shirley, is still living free after he jumped up and down on a restrained subject. Carlisle and Fulbright have immediate knowledge of it. Shirley lives in Stevens County. They're doing nothing about it. And Carlisle's predecessor, Jimmy Mize, who resigned from the city, was immediately hired into the sheriff's office. Brandy Robinson, who apparently wasn't wearing her body cam during the Home Depot event, laughed while Elder Freeman was tased. You can see on her face that she knew Nelson was lying. She also faced no consequences and was present at this Q&A event. Rusty Fulbright's son, Rob Fulbright, works as a jailer and was guarding Freeman's cell for 6 months. And Rusty wants to act like he didn't know anything about it? Rusty, Bruce, I know you're watching. This is not something that happened in the distant past with which your offices had no involvement and which you are powerless to resolve. You haven't taken any steps to fire or discipline anyone. Your people were there, and you're responsible for them. Our reading of the law is that at least someone of the unlucky 13 should be facing serious criminal charges. Elder Freeman, the victim, is still facing false charges, and you haven't publicly called for the DA to dismiss.
And I understand that you have to rebuild that trust with the community, and that's what we have done diligently. Just this week, we had an event called Pizza with a PoPo, where we gave out about 30 pizzas where people come in, and those type of things we've done.
Okay. Here's a kid in a truck with his hands raised in surrender, and Angel Dixon came inches away from hitting him in the face with a baton through glass. And Bruce thinks that he's going to resolve the community relations problem by handing out pizza with a PoPo?
We have to get in front of things when they come out, when incidents do occur. And look, none of us are perfect. We know we make mistakes. We know we miss the mark. And when we do that, we need to get out in front. We need to let the community know, hey, we missed the mark on this one. That's why we depend on our local media. We got a great working relationship with our local media. Our social media is a great way of getting those type of things out.
Sheriff, tell us that you know Freeman is innocent and that your office was responsible without telling us.
Training is, all those are good points, great points. Training is a big key, I think, to training helps knock some of those edges. Training helps to keep things rolling the way they should. Documentation training is great. Policy to help with, I guess, some of the issues we had at the Home Depot. But to help prevent issues arising, I would say that training is key. Policy is key in our departments. Worn body cam, that's part of our policy. Our officers wear their body cams. If they don't, then they get in trouble. Our in-car cameras, they have to be functional. If they're not functional and documenting what's going on, then how are we supposed to protect our people and the citizens as well? So it's key to be able to put this training and policy together to help protect ourselves as well as the public, and maybe to keep things that happened at that location from happening again.
And this is coming from a man whose office had 6 officers on scene and who hasn't turned over any full body or dash camera videos.
Communication and community involvement, that's what it's all about, to build that trust. And I think that's better to get out in front of it and let the people know that this is what we're doing, this is what's going on. Because if we don't, Facebook's going to. They're going to add what they think is happening. And it's going to be the furthest thing from the truth. And then everybody on Facebook's going to believe that is the gospel.
Okay, guys, you asked for input from the community, so I'm going to give you my take. It's obvious that you both know that your offices have done a really terrible thing, and that as a result, you've lost the community's trust. But the solutions you're giving out aren't going to restore the trust. You didn't lose the trust because you weren't doing community outreach. This isn't about bounce houses, pizza with a PoPo, or coffee with a cop. This isn't because my videos being shared on social media are not delivering the truth, or because you failed to get ahead of the story. Your completely dishonest version of events at the Home Depot was published in the newspapers 9 months before the news with Mr. Pipsqueak even started. You aren't going to regain the support of your community by doing more propaganda. You lost the community's trust because your offices did something truly horrible and lied to cover it up. You still won't take responsibility for it, and you aren't doing anything to fix it. That's why you lost the trust. So here's how you can get it back. Consistently do the right thing. Actually hold your people accountable whenever they don't. Stop telling lies to the public, and do whatever you've got to do to end this Home Depot situation and make Elder Freeman whole. Maybe then people will trust you again. I'm Mr. Pipsqueak signing off, and remember, you should never talk to a police officer without your parents and a lawyer present.